Hello everyone and welcome to lecture 6 of the BSc IT Python programming series. This lecture is on the topic of list. So let's get started. On the first slide we have the topic of values and accessing elements. The first point here is that list is a sequence of values. So what I mean by that is if you make any list, the elements inside it are known as values or items or elements. So that's what is emphasized in the second point. The values inside the list can be of any type, and the values inside are known as elements or items. Moving further to the third point, list can be created by enclosing the values between square brackets. Example A is equals to 1, 2, 3. And again, the values inside the list can be of any type. Moving further, we have the point a list within another list is called a nested list. So for that particular point, the example which we have here is this, where a list containing of 1 and 2 and another nested list which contains 3 and 4 is assigned to variable a. Last point we have is this element can be accessed in a same way as strings. So here we have a is equals to 1 comma 2 and a of 0 is equals to 1. Why we are putting 0 here is because at index 0 we have 1, and in the square bracket if we specify the index number we will then get the value of that particular element. Next we have lists are mutable. Unlike strings, the lists are mutable. It means that once a list is created, it can be modified with any objects. And also we can change the list slices with any objects. Last point we have is each element in the list maps to one index, which is helpful in accessing the list values. So here we have numbers list, which has 17 at 0th index and 1 to 3 at index 1. So what we are doing on next line is at index 1 we are trying to assign 5, and since list is mutable this operation will go through, and then later when we try to print numbers list we will get the output as 17 and 5 and not as 17 and 123. Moving on to next slide, we have the next slide on the topic of traversing a list. So as we said earlier, that list is a sequence of values. It can be traversed using basic for loop as we did in the strings. um, Next point we have is, no, I think I should go to the example one to show the for loop. So here we have our first example where I have an array of 4 numbers assigned to a variable known as numbers, and what we are doing here is we are grabbing a single element from the list and printing it. So your underscore is the variable which is holding the values and then printing it. So at the bottom of the code we have the output which shows that we are able to access all the elements and then print it. So it is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Moving on to our second point. If we want to change the elements of the list, then we have to use the range and len function. So if you want to change the values of elements in the list within for loop, we have to use the range and len functions. So I'll give you a bit more details about how the range function works and how the len function works. So here you can see first line. Here we are trying to assign a list with 6 numbers to variable numbers, and then we are trying to print the numbers before any manipulation. So if we check in the output, numbers after output says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Moving forward to our for loop. In for loop, we see that the numbers is passed to variable len. So what this will return is the length of the array. Sorry, the length of the list. So what we'll get is 6. And what range functions does is that it will produce all the numbers starting from 0 to 6, where 6 index is excluded. So for every number generated starting from 0 to 5, what we are trying to do here is we are trying to add 10 to every element in the list. So the output should be 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So as we check in the output, okay, I think the comments are not proper. It should be numbers. The first line should be numbers before. So, but the output is correct. Only I have to change the comments. I'll change that. So the output here is correct, and we can see that we are able to manipulate the list using the index. Moving on to the third point, we have iteration over empty list will not execute the loop body. So what I mean by this is if the sequence or the list over which we are iterating is empty, the statement inside the for loop will not be executed. So when I try to execute this program, I will get nothing in the output. Moving forward to our next point, which is deleting elements from a list. First point here is if you know the list index to remove the element, then you can use pop. Let's see an example on this point. So here we can see there is a list with three characters A, B, and C, and I want to pop the element at index 1, so which is element B. So okay, this is element B, and uh, yes, we have x is equals to t dot pop, and when we try to print the list, we will have A and C. And at last, when we try to print x, we will get B. So why does the last line works? It works because when we try to pop an element from a list using pop method, it returns the element which was removed. So it returns the element which was removed. So because of that, the character B is assigned to X, and at last when we try to print variable X, we are able to see its value. Moving forward to second point. So this is what I emphasized earlier when I was referring to variable X. By default, pop removes the last element from the list if no index specified. No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong here. So here we did specify the index, which was 1. If we didn't specify any kind of index, so if our statement was something like t.pop and only opening and closing brackets, we would have got element C as our output instead of element B. Third point here says that pop returns the value which was removed. So this is what I explained earlier. Moving forward to the fourth point, if you do not want the removed value in return, then you can use del. So if you do not want the value in return, but you know the index at which the value should be removed, then we have the del operator. So t is equals to abc and del t of 1 print t ac. So here we are deleting the character at index b, sorry, at index 1, which is b. So at last when we try to print the list, we only get a and c. What if we try to assign the return value of del t to a variable? So here the output would be none because del does not return any value, and by default in Python the functions return none. Third point, if you know the element which you want to remove but not the index, then remove can be used. So here we are having a list and we know which element we want to remove. So we want to remove the element B, and when we try to remove it and then later print the list, we will be having A and C as the output. If we consider a case where we are having multiple occurrences of B, so what would happen, what will happen when we do t dot remove on the list? So in that case, what will happen is we will be only able to remove the first occurrence of B from the list. Moving forward to the topic of built-in list operators, concatenation, and repetition. So in this, we'll see how a couple of arithmetic operators can be used to work with lists. So the first one is the plus operator, which concatenates the list. So So we'll refer to example one. In the example one, we can see that um, first list has been assigned to variable A, second list has been assigned to variable B, and what we are doing in the third statement is we are trying to add two lists using an arithmetic addition operator whose result is being assigned to variable C. So when we try to print variable C, we see that both the list A and B are joined, and the output is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Moving forward to the second point, we have our point on the star operator. So the star operator repeats the list given number of times. Here we will refer to example 2. In the first statement, we see that we have a list with only single element 0, and we are using the star operator followed by 4. So the output here we are expecting is to have 4 elements in the list where 0 will be repeated 4 times. So yes, so the output which we see here is 4 zeros in one list. If we try this operation on a bigger list, say 3 elements, so in that case, the elements would be repeated 3 times, which means the output will contain 9 elements. It would be 1, 2, 3 repeated 3 times. Going to the third point is on slicing. Slicing also works on list. We can specify the start and end index to extract a slice of a list. Let's see an example on this one. Here we have a list which has 6 elements and it is assigned to variable t. In the next line, we are trying to access the elements from 1 up till 3, where the index 3 is excluded. So it will display only B and C. Yes, that is what we get as an output. Next is we want to access the slice starting from the beginning of the list only up till the index 3, excluding index 4. So the output would be the first 4 elements A, B, C, and D. Next, further, we want to access the elements starting from 3 up till the end. So this will be from character 0, 1, 2, 3, from character D up till the end. So the output will contain D, E, and F. So this is what it means to perform slicing operation on list. Last point we have here is we can change a subset of elements in the list by using slicing operations. So here we have a list, we have a static list, and what we are trying to do is we are trying to change the elements from index 1 to index 3, and there is another list which is assigned to this particular slice. So what will happen is um, elements B and C will be replaced by X and Y. So at the end, when we try to print the list, the output contains A, X, Y, D, E, F. So this operation is possible only because the list is immutable and also slicing operation is supported by list. Moving further to the next slide, we have the in operator. First point is in operator is used as a membership operator to check the presence of a value in the list. So we'll refer to the example one. First, here we have a static list of numbers from 1 to 6, and in the print we are checking that whether 1 exists in numbers. So here in operator is working as a membership operator, and let us see the output for that. So the output here shows true, which means that 1 does exist in the numbers list. And also for the second for loop, we have the second point. So what the second point says is it is also used to get the elements while iterating over a given list. So here uh, what in does is for every iteration it gets a single digit from the numbers. So here the print will print 6 digit for every for the for loop. So here we can see in the output we have all the 6 numbers from the given list. Moving forward to our last slide, we have built-in list functions and methods. First point is, since lists are mutable, we can change them in place using methods. Yes, this is possible. Second point is, append methods method adds the element to the reference list. We will refer to example 1. So what if we want to add an element at the end of the list? If we had used indexing, it would not have worked because we did not expand the list, and then it would give us index error. In order to add an element at the end of the list, we have to do t.append d and then print it. And at the end, when we print it, we will be having a, b, c, and d with the d element appended at the end. So append method does two things. It expands the list and adds the given value at the end. Moving on to the third point, which is on the method extend. So what extend does basically is it will take another list and it will try to extend the first list with the second list. So let's take a look at the point and the example. Extend extend takes a list as an argument and adds all the argument list elements to the reference list, reference ex2. T1 is A, B, C, T2 is D, E. With the operation on the third line where we are trying to extend list 1 with the elements of list 2, when we try to print list 1, the output will contain 5 elements. So this is the result which we get, which is A, B, C, D, E. Moving on to the third example point, which is for sort. Sort arranges the element of the list from low to high. Uh, so looking over the example for sort, we have a list T which has D, C, E, B, A. So the elements here are not in any given order. So we will sort this thing using T dot sort, and T sort returns none value, and in the back the elements are sorted in place. So when we try to print the list T, the output is in sorted order. Uh, Here we have a note for sort. So it says that all methods of the list returns none. So methods like append, extend, sort, they all return none. Moving on to our last point where we have sum. So sum method can be used to reduce a list to a single value. So here we have our list as 1, 2, 3, and when we try to do a sum on the list, we will get the sum of all the values, which is 1, 2, and 3. So yes, that would be it for this slide. And lastly, I would like to um, focus your attention towards the link here. So this link is quite good and it contains a reference for the Python methods for list. So please do check it out and let me know what do you think about it. And once again, thank you everyone for watching this video. I'll upload these slides on my GitHub account so that you can access and use it for your reference. Also, if you have any kind of feedback towards the slide content or towards how I conduct the lectures, please do feel free to leave feedback in the comments, and also press like or dislike button based on what you think about the video. And thank you once again and have a nice one. Bye everyone.